Doing?
Hey, good, good. Uh, so,
Great to
uh,
see you. I love the setup there.
oh, thank you, thank you. It's full on the other side too. So,
Oh, wow.
uh, yeah, I do enjoy my physical media. Let's put it that way. And that's an official family video shelf. I have the family video in our town closed, and they were selling off a lot of their inventory, and then they were giving away their shelves for free. And so
Oh,
after
wow.
some brief negotiation with my wife, I was able
Ah,
to I was able to get one
yeah.
shelf. So I grabbed the 6 footer or whatever it is, and yeah. So
No, that's amazing. Like I missed that, right? Like the what you remember, like the video store days, you walking through and seeing, like grabbing and looking, and like that whole. It, it was like a day thing. You love it. It's so fun.
well, it was an experience,
Yeah.
and like for me, in Milwaukee at the time, there growing up with the video craze growing, you didn't have all the chains initially, so you had a lot of the smaller video rental places, the mom and pop places. So there
Right.
was Nord TV and Video, it was called. So they were a TV repair shop that got into the video
Oh,
rental
wow.
business. And when I would walk in, it would almost become like norm, hey, Mark, how are you? And,
Oh, that's great. I love it. I love it. What a passion we have, right? Films. Like
it,
how exciting.
it is a passion. And, and you definitely have a passion, I imagine, being a producer, which, by the way, I will say, you are probably the first official, like, person whose primary role is producer that I've had on the show. I've had people who have been, directors who have also been producers because of independent cinema, but
Yeah.
you are like the first official executive producer who that's your primary role. So I appreciate you taking time to be on our show.
Of
Uh,
course. I love being able to also explain because people don't really understand producing sometimes. So
please
you,
do. I was going to ask you that. That was one of the first things I was going to ask if you could do that, because I know people don't. I mean, you see them get up and take the Oscar for Best Picture, and you're like,
sure.
who are these schmoes? They weren't the ones in front of the camera that I watched.
Right. So, the producer is the businessman slash creative that's sitting behind kind of like the or he orchestrates this moving mechanism from the very start, from the inception of that idea to the creation of a script, to the packaging of a director, packaging of cast, financing, bringing it through production, delivery, and then all the way years later collecting all that money that people don't want to pay but they owe you, and you got to pay everybody back. So it's like the producer is really the CEO of the movie.
Mhm.
So we are responsible for everyone.
Sure.
We, at the end of the day, are the ones that um have to fix the problems. Of
Mhm.
course, we fix the problems with our team, right? But
Right.
we have to jump through fiery hoops every day, and the universe is always throwing things at you, almost testing your will as, do you really want to make this movie? How bad do you want this movie? And it's something that is very hard, but it's so fun. There's nothing I'd rather do. My personality, I'm very A-type personality
Oh,
too.
sure. Hmm.
So sometimes you get two A's and then you're just like, like, you
Yeah,
know,
my wife is she'll say she's a type A, so she runs everything. I just let her, whatever you want, darling. you you run it.
you're a very smart man. Very
uh,
smart man.
she plans it, and I'm just like, just let me know what you need me to carry or do. I'm good. uh
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, so you are spinning a lot of plates, some would say herding cats uh at times,
Yeah.
because you've got all of those moving pieces, which a lot of people I don't think realize just how much of that is needed, though, because if you didn't have that, things could fall apart fairly quickly if you don't have someone to coordinate all that. And you also, though, help the creatives, correct? Because by you doing that, that takes some pressure off of your crew
Yeah.
and your directors in that.
So, my goal as the producer is to give the creative that we hired
Mhm.
all the tools that they need in order to achieve a vision.
Mhm.
So we're doing that with also balancing a budget.
Right.
We're independent filmmakers, right?
Sure.
So we try to provide everything that we can,
Mhm.
and then if we can't uh, provide something, we have to find a solution or a compromise, or how do we achieve this in a different sort of way?
And you've achieved a lot, and in fact, I didn't realize that you've actually produced a couple other films that I've reviewed in the past, and you work closely with a few people who I've also followed, James Cullen Bressick,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Brandon Slagle, Devaney Pinn. It's like I saw who have worked with you and what films you worked on. I'm like, oh, Battle of Saipan. I'm like, I loved Battle of Saipan.
Oh, I'm so happy that you loved it. I like that's one for me. Like Battle of Saipan is a super special movie. It was just
Mhm.
like we're gonna do a World War II movie with like no money, and we're gonna try to just put our heart into it, And I'm so excited about how that movie came out. So
Yeah, and I mean the production, I found it interesting because indies struggle with period pieces because in order to sell the period, you need the costuming and you need to sell the time period it's in. Because if you get a plane flying across an old western, you're done. You're
yeah, oh yeah,
or they're wearing something not in that period. You'll have people out there going, "Well, that hat wasn't worn until 1935."
oh it happens. It really does, and and people are vicious too. They're like, I'm just like, hey, sorry, it was a creative. Like we didn't mean to, You're just
But you also help produce Pernicious, which I really dug
oh
uh
good. That
as
was
well.
that
Yeah.
was James. Like so, James and I. That was the movie that we did together,
Mhm.
and we were both newbies. That was my third movie.
Mhm.
And I think that was his like first real kind of like movie that we made.
Sure. Mhm.
So very exciting. Very yeah.
It was. And you've got another one coming out that familiar name, Brandon Slagle. I got to talk to him about Frost. What
Right.
wonderful film. And now you've got this really fun Gator film that stars a number of names if you follow indie cinema, and Casper Van Dien as well. The
Yeah.
Flood.
Yeah.
Uh, if you wouldn't mind telling my listeners just a little bit about what The Flood is about.
Sure. The flood is a story about a superstorm and a prison break. And what happens during this prison break is the prison starts to flood. Now, as the water is rising, we start to get gators. And the prisoners and the good guys, the cops, the sheriff,
Mhm.
have to work together in order to survive these terrible beasts. So it's a little crazy, but it really fall. It was just like one of those popcorn, just have fun, like what
Mhm.
a concept kind of movies.
Is that what appealed to you? I was wondering what made you want to take the project up.
First, it's the sellability.
Mhm.
Is that a dear friend of mine in sales company told me, hey, I have a script, it could sell, it's great. And I made many movies with that person, Jordan Dykstra,
Mhm.
and I trusted him. So at that point, I said, I'm in, let's do it, we're making a movie. And then it's just phone call, phone call, phone call, phone call, fiery
Uh,
hoop, fiery hoop.
Now, you produced a number of films. Do you have like a group of individuals that you're very familiar with? So if you get a project like this, you kind of know who to call first, or is it a more of a searching expedition to find the right person?
No, that's a great question. Now, markets have changed a little bit
Mhm.
recently, the whole domestic market, and now business models are changing.
Mm.
So it's having to be a little more selective on different types of filmmakers, and how am I gonna financially put this movie together? So we're having to take more time in the development stages, in the packaging of the film. I can't turn out 5 movies a year right now because
Sure.
that's what I was doing. I did five
Mhm.
movies last year. So
Ooh.
now it's more
Mhm.
okay, take a step back and really what is it we're gonna make? And the team is shifting. There's a shift in the universe.
Mhm.
And that's what we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, well, and it is that because of the amount of content out there now. I've described it to a few people that we've kind of hit a critical mass media here, in that, there's too much to watch nowadays. So
Yeah.
sellability, I imagine, is more of a challenge now because you've got far more competition than, say, 5 years ago, or even, four.
Yeah, I think it's the overall arc of the pre-COVID to
Mhm.
post-COVID, because there was a time frame when there was no content being created,
Right.
which then led to a huge buying spree. And then everybody's making a movie, right? So
Sure.
so they it was just like everybody's buying, 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 buying to kind of catch up. And then with the current climate of like economy and saturation of how many films are out there,
Mhm.
it has caused a lot of disturbance in the force. So
Yeah.
so but that's from studio level down to independence.
Sure. Mhm.
So like your pay TV one providers are not buying like what they used to buy,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Everybody has put a break on, which has in turn affected me as a producer getting signed off from the distributor as quickly.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that landscape changes. I mean, because uh, I know you're always looking for kind of that name, which you have in The Flood with Casper Van Dien. And as I mentioned too, if you're familiar with indie cinema, I mean, Devaney Pinch shows up for in the beginning. You've got Brandon Slagle, who's been very prolific. He directs all variety of films. I'm
Yeah.
always surprised what type of movie he makes. But even in the smaller roles, like you get one of my favorite actors who just shows up, and he seems to be showing up in almost everything. Mike Ferguson. You
Oh
even
yeah, he's
have
great. He's great. Like I love the Mike Ferguson, Randall Bacon. They're
yeah.
they're they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
wasn't that great? I
I
mean, that's kind of like one of those scenes like when he drops him, you're just like, oh, the look on his face. And Randall's my friend, so
oh he is.
yeah, he's a really good friend of mine. So I just love that, and I love
Yeah.
watching my friends work. It's great.
Well, he was great as well. I enjoy the characters quite a bit in this. And I think for a film like this, you need the characters because you got gators. Okay, they're your threat. Yeah, I mean they're pretty straightforward. No cocaine involved, though. No cocaine or
No,
meth.
no, no, no. That was our next movie, Cocaine Alligator.
There you go.
Hey, it's original.
It's everybody's doing drugged animals now. So you don't have drugged animals, they're just regular hungry
Yeah,
gators,
yeah.
which I appreciate. But getting this cast, how, what was it about this cast? You brought it together. Were you familiar with their chemistry, or was it just people that you worked with before, combination?
It's a combination.
Mhm.
It's understanding what the actors were gonna have be, what environment the actors were gonna be placed in,
Mhm.
because it's a very wet,
Yeah.
very difficult set.
Mhm.
So this set is soaked for 12 hours a day. People are
Right.
wet. So how are people going to be able to perform under conditions that are not fun?
Mhm.
And what kind of attitudes are they going to have? And just what kind of human being are we dealing with? And we
Right.
really feel that we chose well with
Mhm.
Nikki Whelan,
Yeah,
we did Eater with, and she's a very dear friend of mine. I love her to death. I think she's very talented. And you want to go to Thailand with Nikki Whelan because
sure.
she's fun and a beautiful person from inside and
Mhm,
shows up. And Louis Mandalore, he is a phenomenal actor,
mhm,
phenomenal director too.
mhm.
Casper, that it was just phone calls. It's like who are we going to make this movie with that people are going to show up,
Mhm.
deliver, and that we could sell the movie with, and that's how the cast came together.
Yeah,
But
and
it's all personal. It's just
sure.
text messages, and then they're in, and then you call the manager.
Well, but I mean, that's I think people don't realize that's what you do with indie cinema when you find a core group that you know will either work together or will work with you well. You call on them for multiple projects. That's why you
Yeah.
have kind of the same crew moving through from film to film.
You're right. It's a film family because
Mm,
it's you are in this environment with this group of people, and there's a chemistry, and it's a sense of battle. So you're going into this battle on a daily basis. You're waking up early, everybody's tired, hungry, just like the environment is extreme,
mm,
and you want to be there with people that you can trust. So when you establish your family and the people you can trust, you stick with them.
mhm. And you do hear, and yeah, I love the cat. Nikki Whelan, she really holds her own with the rest of the brute uh your your convicts in this.
Yeah.
I really loved her scenes and how she kind of held her own, and how it didn't feel forced, because you do get that worry that, oh well, you're just making a strong female character because you need a strong female character now. That's the
Right.
trend. But it didn't feel like that with her. Um,
Yeah, that's just one of the reasons that we went towards Nikki is because we feel like she can deliver the action and the acting
mhm,
because you were required to have both in this scenario.
sure.
So one of the main focus points about casting her.
And yeah, I mean, I dig the characters. That you have a large cast too. I'm gonna say, for an indie film about killer gators, you have a
Yeah,
you have a rather large cast as well.
it was a lot to bite. I mean, literally, like having so many people in such a confined space with water,
Hmm.
and like when people were crawling through the crawl spaces, and you have all these actors, and it's just the water's actually rising, and you're in this bathtub and it's humid. There's a lot of actors there.
Well,
A lot.
and then your crew as well. I mean, you don't just have all the actors. Then you
Oh
got
yeah. Oh yeah. It was
there's a
cramped
there's a
and
lot of
muggy.
people stuck in there. So, when you have a film like this that you know is going to be in a harsh environment, that are you constantly kind of updating, following up? Hey, how you doing? How are things going? Keeping your, I guess, finger on the pulse of things.
You have to be.
Hmm.
We wouldn't be able to get through the movie if you weren't taking care of your crew and your cast and making sure that they're okay
Hmm.
and safe,
Hmm.
right? Because
Right.
you are dealing with a lot of moving pieces. So the safety teams that are involved, um, and then the water, the trucks of water. We always had two water trucks on hand. Um, it was a dynamic environment, and we're having to check on everybody every single solitary day, and then
Mhm.
also the COVID thing, like COVID
Yeah.
test, and when we shot that, it was still very like strict COVID policies. So it was always testing, making sure everybody's, not sick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially because I mean, you heard of people getting sick on the big productions, like big studios, and shutting things down for 2 weeks because half the crew suddenly got
Yeah.
sick. You can't do that with an indie film. You can't afford
No,
that.
that ruins us. We get destroyed. We're like, oh, okay, put everybody on hiatus, and like, how are we gonna afford this?
Mm-hmm. Now,
Very
now,
difficult.
now, how much of the was all of those sets built, or were some of them location, or it was all?
Well, it was a combination of a practical location
Sure. Mm-hmm.
with a set build inside of it.
Oh, okay.
So it was like the building, the police building that you see, or the
Mm-hmm.
sheriff's station. Um, it was really like an abandoned building that we went in and cleaned out, and then we put VFX over the windows to make it look
Sure.
like it was not an abandoned building.
Sure, sure.
Did some set dressing, and then we
Mm-hmm.
went inside and literally built sets in this building.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the really big water days where there's a lot of like water up to the shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
we had to go to another location. And that was
Mm-hmm.
still a practical location though.
Sure.
So it was another building that
Mm-hmm.
we just it was conducive to what we needed.
Well, it all blended well. So I did
Thank you.
like it. It felt like it was all one building, so that it,
Great.
it worked. But I was watching all this water and that, and I'm like, yeah, that's that CGI water.
Yeah, that's it was real. It was like we had real water all the time.
Yeah. Though your gators are CGI, in
Yes,
here.
they are.
So when picking a project like that, when you're looking at projects like this, do you weigh how much you could do practical and CGI, and then look at your budget and go, I gotta do CGI, even if you want to do practical?
Yes, as an independent filmmaker, I found, especially through Maneater experience that I did. We set out to do a practical shark,
Mhm.
but then you realize like this is so hard.
Sure.
This is not reading the way that we thought it was going to, or the puppeteers aren't able to move the actual puppet fast enough, so it doesn't give you the effects. So instead of spending the $100,000 into the shark, why not have better VFX and put the 100,000 into VFX
Sure.
versus having to do this smorgasbord of practical VFX, practical and VFX, which is not looking that good.
Right. Well, I like the way the gators looked. I mean, they did look a bit CGI, but then again, I think it gives the film a bit of a charm. I think people tend to be a little bit harder on effects,
Yeah,
for
they're going to be really hard.
for indie
We
films,
get
you
it.
know.
Yeah, we'll get it. I already know we'll get it, but
But
you
on the
know,
other hand, I think you work with it well with keeping it a little dark in most of the water, where you don't always have them on land to where it
yeah,
features, but there's still a threat, kind of the Jaws effect, where you have the POV of the creature versus seeing the
yeah,
creature. But
exactly, exactly.
but I think it adds charm, and especially takes me back to those old monster films that we used to watch, with Ray Harryhausen and those smaller budget films that had the stop motion that
Oh
didn't look
yeah,
they didn't
yeah,
look real, but they looked fun. They
yeah.
were fun, and that's what you had here. Uh, you know, do you leave it up to the director, or are you involved though with helping it folks visualizing what the gator is going to be? Because there were no real gators, I imagine, on set at the time.
No, no. It was establishing an eye line with the actors
Sure.
in an empty space, and then the director just yelling, "Do this, do that, run! You're in trouble!" Like
Sure.
that's the process.
Mhm.
It's like, um, and then there's certain instances where you see the victim rolling. Now
Mhm.
that's we hook people up to wires and we do
Oh,
wire work, and they actually
okay.
are getting spun with wire.
Mhm.
It's a stunt.
Wow, uh that actually was kind of creepy when that happened to them.
Yeah,
That's actually adds a little, because I don't think I see that as much in a gator film. Usually it's a munch and pull them under, but you
yeah.
don't actually see them rolling the people. And I think that adds a little extra threat to it. And also your talent, right? You've got to have talent that can sell it. Uh,
Yes.
because I've seen movies to where, oh look, there's a shark over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So for a project, for the projects that you pick, like the flood and that, you mentioned sellability, and that are there projects that come across your desk that even if they might be sellable, you kind of passed on either because either complexity or maybe subject matter?
Yeah, I mean, look, subject matter is always,
Subjective.
yeah, correct. I mean, like, I don't like to
Yeah,
do like human trafficking, and
sure.
there's just certain things that I don't like, go like
Hmm.
organ stuff. There's just like, I mean, I like heroes. I
Hmm.
I I love to fish out of water stories. Um, that's what I look for. And like right now, I'm looking for a lot of like female heroes
Hmm.
that are just really can kick butt.
Sure.
That's so it's, but sellability helps, right?
Right.
Okay, so if you're
Sure.
like, hey,
Sure.
here's a sellable movie, you're just like, let's go make it. So
Sure. Sure.
there's like what I want always, but hey, yeah, we
Right.
got to sell. Let's go.
Yeah, I always wondered just how much that worked into a producer's choice, because you see some producers who pick like every project that comes across their desk. So
Yeah.
they've got some kids movie, and then they're over here doing, torture porn movie. And you're just like,
Right. Right. Right.
wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're at least you're a little selective in some of the projects that you do choose.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I have the projects that I like World
Mhm.
War II or topics, right?
Sure.
Genres that are, oh, hey, I'd like to do this, and then I come up with certain criteria, right? Like I wanted to World War II South Pacific with, this. Like, what kind of ideas can you come up with?
Sure.
So I like to work with the writers on creating like what is the log line, what is the synopsis, and then
Right.
running with it. And then, talking to the distributors and saying which one of these do you like? That's
but
I
uh, but not necessarily taking the canon approach of, hey, we're gonna get this person, then you go to that person and go, hey, you want
yeah.
to be in this movie that I just sold that I said you were gonna be in?
Yeah, no, that's like the worst. You can't like, oh yeah, I said there Joe's gonna be in it, but Joe's not in it. Like that's the problem. I
Uh,
it's 4:57. I'm actually gonna have to. I have a 5 o'clock coming in.
oh, sure, yeah, no problem. No, don't want to keep you too long. So we've got the flood coming out soon. What's next on deck that we can expect coming from you?
Yes, Operation Blood Hunt. It was written by Brennan Slagle.
Okay,
Once again, Louis Mandylor is directing,
nice.
and John Rhys Meyers is
Mm.
starring, and Rampage Jackson. And it's a supernatural World War II werewolf film.
Oh,
So it's
okay. You got me. You got
there
me.
you
We
go.
don't have enough.
Yeah,
We don't have enough werewolf films to begin with out there. And
yeah.
where could they follow your stuff?
Yes,
Uh,
Instagram, Daemon Hillin, or TikTok, also Daemon Hillin. And that's where I go into detail with like behind the scenes and like what are we doing video wise.
sure.
So,
Fantastic. Well, thank you, David. I'm glad we
yeah,
finally got a chance to
it was
meet.
a
Uh,
pleasure.
and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again sometime.
I'm looking forward to it. You have a great one.
Sounds good. You too, sir.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Take care.